Assalamu alaikum. I am Hanan Awad, and this time I want to speak about a very thorny topic, oppression of Muslim women. But before I start talking about this difficult topic, I'd like to emphasize a few points. The first one, I am not an Islamic apologist. I don't favor finger pointing or defending Islam, because simply I believe that Islam doesn't need no one to defend. Islam needs Muslims who practice their religion in its true essence, and non-Muslims who listen understandably. So what can I bring to this topic? Probably nothing new, except my viewpoint as a Muslim woman who had her own learning journey and transformation process from a born Muslim to a Muslim by choice. The status of women in Islam is a continuous dispute and debate between Muslims and non-Muslims, and even between Muslims and other Muslim group. The question here is this anticipated low status, is it due to that Islam as a religion doesn't grant rights to the woman, or does it grant women rights and the society does not give them their rights? Before going further, I need to understand the word oppression, because this is me as a researcher. I need to understand the topic from its very basics. So according to the World English Dictionary, oppression is the act of subjugating by cruelty, force, etc. Other resources define oppression as taking rights by force. So from the general perspective, how Islam regards oppression? I have collected few sayings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and some verses to see how Islam as a religion regards oppression. So the first saying of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, oppression will be darkness on the day of resurrection. He had another saying narrated by Al-Bara ibn Azib. Allah ordered us to do 7 things and forbade us to do other 7. And from the 7 that Prophet Muhammad ordered Muslims to do is to help the oppressed. In the Quran, Surah Al-Qasas, verse 83, that home of the hereafter we shall assign to those who rebel not against the truth with pride and oppression in the land, nor do mischief by committing crimes, and the good end is for the muttaqun. So the word al-muttaqun comes from at-taqwa, and at-taqwa means fearing Allah. So what prevents Muslims from committing crimes or oppressing others is at-taqwa, fearing Allah. Another verse in Surah Al-Mumtahina, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Allah does not forbid you to deal justly and kindly with those who fought not against you on account of religion, nor drove you out of your homes. Indeed, Allah loves those who deal with equity. So, in one hand, Islam forbade us to oppress others. On the other hand, Islam promotes justice and equity. So Islam is not an oppressive religion. To guide my own research, I started to ask questions. the first question I asked myself, why women? In all these campaigns about oppression or domestic violence or women's rights, feminist movements, why it's always women? Why women in Islam? So the answer I found in some researchers' work, Western researchers' work. Mary Therese Ellis from University of Texas states that early 20th century literature produced by colonial writers in French North Africa both mobilized and embellished the figure of the Eastern African woman for strategic purposes. She bases her arguments on Marnia Lazarigue, who argues that the French military staged veil removal ceremonies so that hexagonal reports on these events would promote public support for colonialization as a force emancipating women. So if we try to think of this logically, we can say that wars and colonialization needs a cause and reasons to justify the military existence in these areas. Usually these areas are rich, so they used women to justify or to create a cause to have existence in these lands. The other question, are women equal to men? And I'm not talking about this equality in Islam. Before I think of equality of men and women in Islam, what about other civilizations? So Monica Ray Cortez wrote, at the ancient Roman, women were not treated equally to men. First of all, women were not even considered citizens of Rome. Clearly, women were not respected or appreciated. I have read about debates when the Roman scholars and the public were arguing whether women have soul or not. Roy Rosenwig, Center of History and New Media, states that in one of the papers they published, states that Roman law denied women a legal persona and subjugated them to the control of male representatives. The same theme I found in medieval time, in Byzantine time. Women did not have access to equal rights in medieval times. Women were not entitled to a political vote and were not able to choose whether or not to marry. Women were also not generally able to work. Women did not generally have access to education. That was the status of women before Islam. And of course, when we talk about the Arab desert, the women hardly had any rights. There used to be inherited when a man dies, his wives and daughters become part of his inheritance. So women were not equal to men in this civilization. Even in the new history, Evelyn Richards, she was commenting on Darwin and the descent of women. She wrote, Darwin concluded that males were like animal breeders, shaping women to their liking by sexual selection. On another resource, the Encyclopedia Britannica, they talk about the English common law concept of coverture, which means the legal subordination of a married woman to her husband. So, and even in the North America, the same concept was prevailed until the middle of the 19th century. But the economic realities of life in the New World demanded greater flexibility for women. Beginning in 1839, only 173 years ago, women in Mississippi started to get some rights. The state began to enact legislation overriding the disabilities associated with coverture. They established the rights of women to enjoy the profits of their labor, to control real and personal property, to be parties to lawsuits and contracts, and to execute wills on their own behalf. That was the status of women before Islam and even after Islam in the West. So, again to the question, are women and men are equal? The science says they are equal only of being this part of the same species, humankind. In their book Brain 6, Anne Moyer and David Jessel wrote, "Men are different from women. They are equal only in their common membership of the same species, humankind. To maintain that they are the same in aptitude, skill, or behavior is to build a society based on a biological and scientific lie." So even scientifically, the scientists decoding the human genome have discovered that 78 genes separate men from women. So how Islam deals with men and women equality? I will recite a verse from Surah An-Nisa. The first verse in that surah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, "O mankind, be dutiful to your Lord, who created you from a single person, Adam, and from him he created his wife, Hawa or Eve. And from them both he created many men and women. And fear Allah, through whom you demand your mutual rights, and do not cut the relations of the womb, kinship. Surely Allah is ever and all watcher over you." Surah An-Nisa means women. This chapter deals in so many issues related to women, and it starts clearly saying that we, men and women, were created from the same person. This means that we are equal. Another verse from Surah Al-Hujurat, "O mankind, we have created you from a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know one another. Verily the most honorable of you with Allah is that who has at-taqwa." Again, at-taqwa means fearing Allah. Verily Allah is all-knowing, all-aware. So the same concept of equality is coming to the surface again. But there is something very interesting. God advises us that the only differentiating factor between men and women in this equality is the people who fear Allah and do the right. The same concept was emphasized again in Surah An-Nahl, verse 97. "Whoever works righteousness, whether male or female, while he or she is a true believer, to him we will give a good life, and we shall pay them certainly a reward in proportion to the best of what they used to do." So Islam established the equality between men and women. At the same time, Islam established the concept and the principle of deeds. Your deeds is the only differentiating factor of your value in the eyes of Allah. So we are different due to physiological, psychological, emotional aspects and dimensions of our being. But in the eyes of Allah, we are equal. And we have rights that fits our roles in life. And our roles are different because we are different. This is how Islam regards women. Next time, I will talk about the first stage in the woman's life when she is a young girl. See you next time. Assalamu alaikum.